Hey everyone, in this section I'm going to cover role-based CLI access. Role-based CLI access was created to give us more control over which commands a user could issue. So in a previous section I talked about privilege level access in those commands, what role-based CLI does is gives us more control over specific commands that can be issued or that can't be issued, and it also allows us to control users' access to like particular ports, particular slots, or logical interfaces. Um, in unlike privilege levels with role-based CLI, you don't inherit commands from different levels, or you don't inherit commands from a different view. Whatever view you're logged into, whatever commands were configured for that view, those are the only ones you're allowed to issue, right? So with privilege levels, the higher the level, the more commands you had access to. And also, the higher the level you were at, you always inherited the commands of the level below you. That's not the case with role-based CLI, and hopefully it gives us a little more security with our devices. You know, who can access them, what can they do when they're accessing them very specifically. All right, so to configure role-based CLI, we have three different types of views. We have the root view. This is similar to say privilege level 15. The root view can do everything, and it is the only view that can create other views. So you have to be in root view in order to create another view. Then we have our CLI view. Here we create views, and then we put commands in there that are allowed, that will be allowed at that particular view level, and I'll show you that. Multiple CLI views can be created for different levels of command access. So if I just have, a real junior entry-level person, I literally want to give them two commands. It might not even be that person. Maybe it's like all our interns, right? They get these commands. Right? Then when you're no longer an intern and maybe you're a level 1 tech or something, you get a separate view, and those are the commands for all our level 1 techs, and so on. But we can create multiple views anyway, and each of those views can have different command access. And only the commands that are in your view that you're logged into can be used, and we'll verify that and see that. And then lastly, we have a super view, which consists of CLI views. You cannot add specific commands to a super view. The only thing you can do is add views. Right? So if I want a super view to have particular commands, then whatever views I put within that super view has to have those commands. We can create a CLI view and use it in multiple different super views. So it's modular. Once I create my CLI views, I can have just CLI views. I don't have to create super views, but I can take, if I have multiple CLI views, I can mix and match them within a super view to give additional certain access, right, to whoever's logged in. So the big thing about a CLI root view is the only one that can create a view. Our CLI view is where we put the commands that we're allowed to use in that particular view. And a super view is where we put views. We can't put commands inside of a super view. Also, if I delete a super view, its associated CLI views aren't deleted. If I have a super view created and say it has two views in it, view 1, or two CLI views in it, view 1 and view 2, if I delete view 1, then view 1's also removed from my super view. But the opposite isn't true, right? So if I have a super view that has view 1 and view 2 in it, and I delete the super view, that will not delete the CLI views of view 1 and view 2. So pretty easy concepts. Now let's look at how we go about configuring it. So you're going to need a privilege exec password configured. When we look at the configuration steps, I guess we sort of just assume that, because we're going to use our privilege exec password in order to get into our root view, which is the only view we can be in, right, to create our CLI views. So the first step is we've got to configure AAA, or we've got to enable AAA with the AAA new model command. And then we can log into our root view. We can do that by either using the enable view command just by itself without a view name at the end. Then when we hit enter, it's going to ask for our password. We just enter the privilege exec password. Or we can specify root view. We can do either of these commands. So we could do enable view root then. And then again, it's still going to ask for the privilege exec password. When I want to create a view, I use the parser view command. So it's parser view, and then whatever I want to name that view, I have to give the CLI view a password. So I use the keyword secret. and then whatever password I want for that view. And then lastly, I want to assign commands to the particular view. To do that, we use the commands. So that's the beginning of it. And then the parser mode you're in, and that's just going to be the mode where the commands you're going to put or you're going to allow down here. That's the mode those commands are in. We're going to use exec mode. We can include commands, right? So we're going to add commands to the view. We can include exclusive, which means I'm going to add the command, but only this view can have that command. I can exclude commands. I can use the keyword all, which just means that all the commands in that mode, in our configuration mode that begins with our keyword or all our sub-interfaces that are part of an interface, if I do that, they'll all be included. And if I want to specify an interface, then I use the keyword interface and then the interface name, and then lastly, the command that I want to add to the view. It's enable AAA, log into root view, create a CLI view, create a CLI view password, and then assign commands to that view. Now, remember, we can also then create a super view. So if I've created multiple views and I want to combine them into a super view, I do parser view, and then the name that I want to give my super view, and then I need the keyword super view at the end. And then next, again, we assign a password using the secret and then the password command. And then we need to add the CLI views to the super view. Now remember, again, we can't add commands to a super view. We can only add views. So we use the keyword view and then the name of the view that I want to put in the super view. And then lastly, when we go through our config, we'll actually do some verification. One will be to show you which commands once I get into each view, right? So we'll configure it, then we'll go into a view. We hit the question mark so we can see commands available to us at that view. But then also we can do the show parser view command to see which view we're currently in. And in root view, we can issue the show parser view all command to see all the views that are configured. And then I can also see which super views are configured as well. So let's go ahead and start some configuration. I'm going to grab my terminal window. All right, so I brought my terminal over. And we want to configure two views in a super view, right? So we're going to configure tech1, and in tech1, it's going to have show IP int brief and show IP protocols available to it. And in tech2, we'll have show run and reload available to it. And then we'll create our super view called admin1, which will have our tech1 and tech2 views in that. We'll make sure we also verify. So the first thing is we do need a privileged exec password because we'll use that in order to get into our root view. And you can see here I went into enable and I do have one. If I do a show parser view here, you can see that I have no view active and I'm currently in a privilege level context. So we want to get into our root view so we can create our tech1 view. Enable view, and I don't have to put the view name at the end. The default will be root when I put in the privileged exec password here. There we go. So now if I hit the up arrow and do a show parser view again, I can see that my current view is root. So I'm ready to create my tech1 parser view tech1, and we give it a password. We're going to call it tech1 pass. And then we're going to put a command in there. Command. And the command level that I'm getting, the level that my command is in is an exec. So we'll do command exec. Include show IP interface. Hit enter. The other command I want to add is our show IP protocols command. This one I'm going to do an include exclusive so that when we can verify and you can actually see that I won't be able to add it to the tech2 view. So we'll do a command exec include --tab complete show IP protocols and hit enter. Then we'll get out of there and we're going to go into, oh, darn it, sorry. Oh, didn't like that. Let me hit a Control C for a second there because I started. But all right, now let's go ahead and go into our tech1 view, and that requires our tech1 password. And let's just hit a question mark, see what is available to us. You can see there's a lot less available to you than if you were at privilege level 15 in privilege exec mode, right? So the other thing, aside from making it more secure, it almost makes it easier to deal with as well. You're in a view and you're only allowed certain commands. You don't have to try to guess which command you need or try to remember. You only have so many options, so maybe it makes it seem like the device is just a little bit easier to handle. So if we do a show question mark, we have some default ones in here, right? These are going to be our defaults. This is going to allow us to do our show parser. Oh, move my cursor. I do that all the time. Sorry. Show parser view. I can see that my current view is tech1. So let's go back then. We can do a show IP and then question mark. What do we have available to us? Uh-oh, what did I do? I spelled protocols incorrectly. And since that command doesn't exist, it's not an option here. But you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to demonstrate something real quick since I'm here, and then we'll go back and add that one because I'll have to fix something anyway. So the reason why we don't see protocols here, which I guess is an interesting, I didn't intend to do this. Sometimes I purposely try to make mistakes to show you things. But this time I didn't. I just didn't spell protocols correctly. And since that command doesn't exist, it couldn't give me access to that command. So we'll go back and configure that in a second. So I'm going to do a show IP interface because that command I did type right and hit a question mark. What I want you to notice here is all I have is for options is different kinds of interfaces. What I don't have is show IP interface brief, which is what I said I really wanted, right? But that's not going to be there by default. I'm not going to just inherit that after getting the interface portion of it. I have to explicitly allow that. So I can do a show IP interface here. So I can do a G0/0 for gigabit 0. And like I said, I didn't configure anything on here yet because we're just configuring commands allowed at different views. So there's no routing happening really, and there's none of our interfaces are up, but I can see them. So now what I've got to back and do is I've got to add the show IP int brief. I've got to add the brief portion of it. But then also now I'm going to have to do the show IP protocols correctly, spell it correctly. So let's go back and do that. We'll go into root view, enable view root. This time I'm going to type in the root just to show you I could use either command. And config T, parser view, tech1. Command include, command exec, sorry, exec, include show IP interface brief. So this time I'm adding the brief as an option, if I spelled it correctly. And now I want to do the command exec include dash, spell exec correctly, Renee. Include dash, there we go, show IP protocols. There we go. Now they should all be in there. Let's go ahead and enable, let's go into our tech1 view again. Enable view tech1 and our tech1 password. Get a question mark. So we have show here. And we have show IP still. Now this time we do have interface and protocols because I've done that correctly. We hit a question mark. We see we just had to hit a carriage return or hit enter. Right? We don't have a protocol running. Now let's go back to our show IP interface. And hit question mark. This time we see brief. Now brief is an option for us now, so we can actually enter show IP in brief now. Right? Okay, let's do a show parser view. See, we're in tech1 view. Now we've created our tech1 view. Let's create our tech2 view. Enable view. And again, I'm bouncing back and forth between specifying root or not specifying root. Just so you can see you can do it. That doesn't matter. Right? So. And we want to create our, I'm going to move my cursor again, create our tech2 view, config T, parser view tech2, And in there, we want to put the show run and reload commands as an option. So command exec include show run. Oops, forgot to set the password for this one. Let's set our password first. Let's do that. Secret tech2 pass. There we go. Let's hit the up arrow twice to get our command back so I have to type it again. Command exec include show run. And then command, I want to show you exec include reload. That's what we're going to give them. I don't know what is with me and spelling today. There we go. Now I wanted to show you that the include exclusive means it's going to include the command and not allow another view to use that. So in our previous part here, where'd I do it? When I spelled, here we go. So for our show IP protocols, we did include exclusive. So that means I shouldn't be able to add the show IP protocols command to our tech2 view. It should be exclusive to our tech1. Let's see if that's true. Command exec include show IP protocols. And you can see the command present in include exclusive mode. So it's not going to allow me to add that command because it's exclusive to the tech1 view. So let's get out of here. We've configured what we want to do. Now let's enable view tech2 and hit enter. And our tech2 password and hit our question mark. And what commands do we get? We get reload and show. Show something. Show what? Show the usual defaults. And then now we get running config. So that's it. We've got a tech1 and a tech2 view. A tech1 view has the show IP interface brief in there, and then also the show IP interface. And we have the show IP protocols. And then tech2 has show run and reload. So now let's take both of those, tech1 and tech2, and put them in our admin super view. We'll do our show Parser view again. We can see that we're in the tech1 view, so we'll go into our root and config T, and then Parser. You know, it's pretty much the same. You just can't add commands to a super view, and you got to use the keyword super view. So Parser view admin 1, and then we need to tell it that it's a super view. If I could spell it right, there we go. Now to this, remember, we can't add commands. All we can do is add views. So we're going to add view tech1. Oh, I forgot to set the password again. At least it'll tell you if you forget stuff, right? Secret. But you guys can guess what I'm going to make this password. There we go. Now let's add our view tech1. And we're going to add our tech2 view. And, whoops, and we're done. So enable... This is really why tab completion is your friend, right? If it knows enough of the command, you can tab complete it, and you don't have spelling problems. Enable view admin 1, enter, and then our admin 1 password. Now let's go ahead and hit the question mark here. See what's available to admin 1. Reload that it got from where? From the tech2 view. And our show command. So let's look at a show and our question mark. So from tech2, it got show running config. From tech1, it got show IP. So if we do a show IP question mark, we see our interface and protocols command from tech1. So we create all kinds of CLI views and then mix and match them into multiple super views to get the right combination of commands for particular users. That one I think is pretty much the end of the... Oh, it's not the end. Let's do this. Let's go into root. Right? Let's do... Right, because right now we're in... Let's just do this real quick. Show Parser view. And we see that our current view is admin 1. It doesn't tell me that admin 1 is a super view. If we do a show Parser view all. Oh, hold on. Enable view root. Now let's do a show. Let's move our cursor, or my little cursor there. Show parser view all now. There we go. Now we could see all the views and super views that are in the system. We have our view 1, our view tech 1, and our view tech 2. Admin is a super view. Notice that you'll know that it's a super view because of the asterisk next to us. This asterisk indicates that admin 1 is a super view. Now that was everything I wanted to cover, so I hope that helped a little bit.